expecting it. Oh, it's making noise.
The meeting will now come to order. Wow. Can you turn this down a little bit? I feel like I'm echoing. Okay.
That loud, Beverly, just move it right in your mouth if you have to. We can hear you, you don't have to have.
Or can you hear me now?
No, that's a little too far away.
Okay. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence for our board members, Gene Hare and his family, and Donna Mosier has asked for prayers. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Roll call, Debbie.
Yes, Ms. President, I have Donna Mosier, Ed Weiner,
Here.
Susan Muniak,
Here.
Lemay Neifert,
Here.
Brenda Owens,
Here.
Barry Burgess,
Here.
Jennifer Smiley,
Here.
Beverly Hastings.
Here. Okay. Debbie, do we have
Proof of notice was posted 48 hours prior.
Okay. Disposition of prior minutes.
I move we accept the minutes as printed and passed out at the door.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. Motion carried. Treasurer's report.
I move we accept the treasurer's report as printed and passed out at the door.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Motion carried. For the time being, we're going to bypass the manager's report. He's on his way. We had an incident with the computer this morning, so. Architectural committee, is there someone? Okay, good, Ed. Ed Heber.
Ed Heber down the lake, I'm standing in for Russ Rogers. And I know most of you are informed that Russ went to visit his family in Pennsylvania for Christmas and accidentally fell and broke his hip.
Oh, geez.
Thank goodness he's come through the operation all right, and he's in the hospital right now in rehabilitation. Please keep him in your thoughts and prayers. We received 16 applications for the art, and all, or 17 were all approved.
Thank you, Ed.
I'll make motion that we accept that we approve the 17 that the art committee suggested.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. And thank you, Ed, for stepping in. Well, John, are you ready to do the manager's report?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Did I miss anything?
No.
Okay, so just for starters, there's some maintenance staff things on the list. We've got a pretty full plate. The new toilets have been installed. The ladies' room has been painted. Painting the billiard room is next on the list. The vanity for the men's bathroom is ordered. That's supposed to arrive late this month. And that bathroom will be painted. And later on in the agenda, we're talking about flooring in the billiard room to be refelt tables in conjunction with that project. We have seawall repair proposals later on in the agenda. There's no update on the swimming pool project. I just spoke with the contractor on Tuesday, and same message. They're still expecting to start the project some point in March. No more specifics than that. The two median islands on Ponderosa have been removed, and it looks like Pasco County has completed those two projects. Violations for the month of December are as follows: 126 total for the month. 53 of those were 53 new violations and 92 resolved violations.
Thank you, John. Are there any questions for John? Gary?
John, I was noticing as I drove around where they patched or repaired those medians, and they have, the one over here at least has two signs, one at each end of the patch in the middle. I was just curious, is that going to be a hazard for somebody that's not paying attention to go through there and like cream that sign?
You know, I don't know. Those signs were there, and they just put them back up. So I don't know. If I'm a roadway maintenance worker, without an engineer stamp on changing it, I'm putting it back the way it was also.
Ed, I'm sorry.
Because I talked to the guys when they were doing the construction, they also said that, or deconstruction, they said that they were going to strike that part that they paid. I don't know if that would help or not.
At least at night it would help, I think. Okay. Finance Committee?
Good morning, Patricia French Weislick, 13806-7024 for Finance. We had a regular meeting and just wanted to point out a few things. The large credit that we had for the clubhouse water has now been used up, so we'll see the bills go up for a while. And the taxes were paid in full on time, so there was no problem there. You all know that the bus service has been reduced but kept for once a week. And we discussed the delinquencies and fines. And this is in no way a criticism of the treasurer or anybody here, but the committee is alarmed at the amount of delinquencies. Now, from the November report, it went from 88,000 to 76,000. That is still a very high amount. At one time, 15,000 was considered. And the committee was concerned about the process. And is the lawyer giving us enough background? Because it's customary when a lawyer sends a letter, the client gets a copy of it, and we've never received them. So all of these things, when they go to the attorney, they just sort of go down a black hole, and eventually a check shows up coming back. The committee just felt that there should be a better system of monitoring it, other than Sue having to call him once a month or however often she calls him to try to shake down and find out where we are with all of these. She stated that he is very responsive, and she usually gets a report in writing within 24 hours. But the committee felt this should be done on a regular basis as opposed to putting all the burden on the treasurer. That's all we have.
Thank you. Any more questions for Gabby? Okay. Fines and suspensions?
Looks good now, Air Vista Drive. I'm here for the fines and suspensions. Hearings were held on January 4th, 22 for violations that were approved in the November and the December Board of Directors meetings. 3 violations were enforced. One violation was not enforced, and that was 8034 Merrimack Drive. That was lawn and landscaping, and it had improved, although the lady was not in attendance. The pictures and when we looked at it, which was just before the meeting, it had improved, so we were assuming she had made an attempt, and it was hopefully gonna grow this winter, helpful. Another violation, all other violations were approved, which were quite a few. We had probably 12 or 13 between the 2 meetings. Any violation that you approve at this meeting, it will be held on January 25th, 2022. Question?
Thank you, Liz. Okay, attorney review. Jennifer?
We have a meeting scheduled on Monday, the 10th, coming up. That has been posted. We are interviewing 3 different attorney firms, law firms. Okay, sorry about that. Rabin, Parker, Gurley is at 1, Mankin is at 2, and Arias Mosinger is at 3. Homeowners will be permitted to attend as this is an open meeting, but all homeowners' questions and comments must be saved for the end of the meeting after the board has fully conducted their interviews. If you have any question or a subject you would like the board to consider during the interview process, please submit this prior to the day of the meeting, which I said was Monday afternoon. And that's about it.
You will need those questions, if there are any, at least by 11 o'clock Monday. Because meeting's gonna start at quarter 1. Sorry. That's to give us some time to look over the questions. Okay. Billiard room, update on the flooring replacement. Brenda, myself, and Jennifer went and picked out a carpet tiles, which we think should go through for the whole room. So we have to vote on that. Do I have a motion so we can talk about it?
I move that we carpet the whole billiard room with the carpet tile.
I'll second that. Do we have any discussion on it?
We've had other bids for doing part of it laminate, part of it carpet tiles, but the cost is a little bit off of what our budgeting amount is, if I'm not correct.
Do we have a bid for replacing it with a roll of carpet instead of doing the individual tiles?
No, we do not. So,
Wasn't that determined to be cheaper if we did all carpet?
The reason not to do a continuous piece of carpet is that, especially since we said that they could drink just like they do in the card room, that these tiles, if somehow one area gets really bad, we just pull it up and put another one down. We won't be left with stains in any place. They're easy to replace, and that is why we were going with the carpet squares.
okay.
I thought at the last meeting, one of the biggest things was that
a number of us were not happy with the carpet squares and the cost of this. I mean, you're talking $3,300 on this one, almost $3,400.
That's not the carpet tile, that's for vinyl. It's vinyl.
Remove the carpet. It says homeowner supply carpet squares and glue.
Okay, I didn't read that one.
So it's $33.75, and that's without the cost of the carpets.
We didn't get a written estimate from the one that Brenda and.
We went to Bob's,
Right? So is that who you're suggesting?
yes.
I really think we need a written estimate if we're gonna vote on this.
They won't give us one until we tell them for sure that we're going to do it. Wasn't that what they said, Brenda?
Well, they send somebody out.
Yeah, they have to send somebody out to measure. Once we say, yeah, we want to have them come and measure. And so we had to vote on that first.
Well,
$1 square foot.
Yeah.
all right, I don't see how, to be honest with you, I don't feel comfortable voting for something we don't have an idea on.
All right.
Yes, John?
So I wasn't there, but they did give the folks that went pricing, and I believe the pricing, if they did the removal of the existing carpet, was going to be about $8,400, and if maintenance staff does the removal, I think that drops the cost about $2,000. So I think the final cost of Timber Oaks, if you go with this Bob's suggestion, is something more than 6 and something less than 7. I don't have the exact number.
That's with the price of the carpet though. Yeah.
John, can our maintenance staff remove it? Because isn't it glued down? Don't they have to have a special machine to?
So typically when it comes up pretty easy, especially when it's older like it is. If it was a new lay, it's a little harder because the glue is more substantial, but an older carpet like that, it's probably going to come right up. The laminate that was removed from the library was glued down also, and I would be more concerned about how that came up than the carpet, and they came up real easy, and they didn't have to do any prep to relay the new laminate. So I'm hopeful, Ed.
Doesn't that then change these labor estimates quite a bit? Because they both consider removal as part of their estimate, so I don't know how we can vote on something that we don't have the proper estimate for.
Okay.
Because
Let's table
this
it.
one didn't break down, the first one doesn't break down how much for each item. And then the second one does, but
The second one is for vinyl plank, not carpet.
yeah.
Okay, we need to table this. We'll get Bob's to come out and measure and give us a definite price.
And are you still just looking at carpet tiles? Are we not still talking about vinyl on the half?
No, vinyl. No, we're not talking about vinyl 1/2.
Why?
Because
Why was that dropped? I know that was.
it's a hazard.
No. No, I think there's more of a hazard having rugs that get things spilled on them and get sticky and people trying to maneuver around them than there is putting vinyl in there. I think we talked about it being a hazard and we never said, okay, we're not going to look at that because it's a hazard. We talked about different areas and different ways to not have it be a hazard. I'm not happy, believe me, I'm not. I thought that's what we were doing. So if we get all the options with the cost, then let's look at it.
Okay. Is that okay with everyone on the board?
So we're tabling it until we have more bids. Thank you.
So you have to rescind your motion?
Yeah, I'll withdraw the motion.
Draw yourself, yes. Okay, thank you. Seawall project. John, can you enlighten us?
So prior to our last meeting, we had a couple of estimates from a couple of contractors where we were waiting for more information and potentially engineering information. So since our last meeting, we did get one response from a private engineer, and we got an additional contractor's proposal that the board is now reviewing.
Brenda? I just want to make sure that we're all talking about the same thing here. It seems like the proposals are wide variety in the, or variance in the dollar amounts. And it also seems like they're not like bidding on the same thing. So were each of these came out and looked and came up with their own solution, and that's what they bid on, or?
Yes, they each came out, they each surveyed the issues, came up with their own suggestions for potential repairs. Because they're all coming from different directions, that's the reason why we tried to go in the direction of getting an engineer to draw up specs so we could go back to the contractors and have them all bid apples to apples. We do have the one preliminary proposal from an engineer on what they would charge to provide that service. The last contractor that provided a proposal is an engineer, he's just not licensed in the state of Florida.
Which one is that?
The G.A. Nichols Company proposal.
Okay, thanks.
And the big difference between the proposals, they are coming from different directions, each one of them. The big difference between the proposals is the G.A. Nichols proposal is, well, let me take a step backwards. The other contractors are band-aiding existing problems, which would probably be good enough, right? The G.A. Nichols Company is just giving us a new wall.
Lynette?
The problem I have with this is, because we're getting all these different proposals and different ways to repair this, and it certainly has to be repaired. And we're talking this kind of money, we're talking,
$80,000.
yeah, $80,000 to fix it. We need an engineer's report. I mean, it seems kind of foolish, we're getting all these proposals, but until each of them thinks that their form or their proposal is the way to go, so we're kind of stuck here in the middle with not knowing what to do with it, and it is a mess. Yes?
If you look at the one from the show,
Microphone.
sorry.
Yes, I see that.
Okay. That amount is just to get,
An engineer's report without doing any repairs whatsoever.
I understand that, but I'm just saying, in the meantime, we're getting these estimates, but we don't even know what we're looking at, honestly. I mean, we can see where the concrete has fallen, we can see where the seawall is being washed out, anyone that walks along can see that. But I think we need to get the engineer before we go any further with this.
I agree with that.
So
I don't want another fiasco like we had with the lights and the pool, and I would like to know what we're doing before we look at things.
may I
And
make a
let's have all the contractors bid on the same thing,
Correct.
so that they're, we're not comparing apples to oranges.
May I make a suggestion? If you read what he said, he could come out and provide a verbal opinion for $450. If we want him to draw up specs, we're talking maximum 6,000, minimum 3,000. What if we have him come out, and give us a verbal for the 450 and go from there?
If we have a verbal, how can we pass that on to the contractors so they know what they're bidding on? We gotta have some specs.
We've got to do something, we have to do something that we have something in writing. We can't just say, well, this is what this guy said. Now give us an idea of the cost.
It has to be fixed sooner rather than later.
The other thing with this is the only engineer, John, that we could get? And does anyone know this gentleman? No.
That's a Google search.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know that we want to just say that. I think we need to check him out or see what else we can do. This is a big project. This is a lot of money.
It does.
And even without the money portion of it, we need it done right. I mean, this is just growing and growing what's going on out there. Right.
Did you have something, Mary, you wanted to say?
John, I have a question for you. Have you ever contacted or used Spring Engineering?
I don't know that name.
That's who we used at the school system regularly, and they were a good company, and I just wondered if you'd ever used them.
I can add it to the list.
Brenda, I know you want to say something.
Well, just preliminarily, Gulf Engineering is a structural and civil engineering group. So it seems like they're the right fit for a project like this. I don't know any of them personally.
Ed, you want to say something?
I just was, do we need a motion that we wait for an engineering's report?
Yes. Go ahead, Lene.
I just wanted to ask a question quickly before this. Where is this money coming from? Do we have it allocated anywhere?
Okay, I was prepared for that. What the Seawall is an account under deferred maintenance, which is a voluntary reserve. We have in that, it's supposed to be done in 3 years.
Seawall.
Yeah, but we know it can't wait that long. We have like 25,000 in for that. However, it is only part of the whole reserve. And we have a few things that supposedly need to be done this year. Some of them have been done, like the water fountain on the rec court. That's already been fixed. The one water fountain there. We probably won't resurface the shuffleboard courts. The other one is the lighting on the shuffleboard courts has already been fixed. The maintenance did that without using any of that money. We're not looking at replacing the fob system, which would have been now, so we have money there. And the irrigation system and the irrigation well pumps. I've known we've replaced some of them before, the well pumps that are there. And that has a lot of money in it. But the worst that would happen, we actually have in that reserve right now, in total in that reserve. Hold on. Come on, paper. We have in that reserve, in the deferred expenditures, $258,000. So by taking out what we need for this project, the absolute worst thing that would happen if we had something else big that had to come out of that is that we'll be putting more into this reserve next year in next year's budget. And some of the things and when we redo the seawall, it's going to have a life expectancy of at least 30, if not 50 years. So that the amount that we would have to put in to replace it would be very small. And I can't really figure out how much we have to put in all the things because they have a computer program that does their RPM. But that's probably the worst, is that we'd have to put a good bit more in there, which might affect the dues. It might, but it might not either. Plus, we actually still have a surplus for this year. We can always apply some of that to it too. at the end of the budget year, if we have a good bit in the surplus, we can move it to the reserve account.
Okay, I'll move that we go ahead and request an engineering report so that we can put out for bids. So all contractors are bidding on the same thing on the seawall.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Dale, sorry.
Dale Thompson, Hachita Drive. Are we talking about redoing the whole thing all the way around or just a little section?
I wouldn't call it a little section. If you walk along the seawall to the right, if you're facing out from here, to the right of the pool, you will notice big slabs of concrete that have dropped 4 inches at least or more from when they were originally done. They've dropped before they hit the seawall. The water's going down through there and washing everything out from behind. It's the same over here on this side. When you go to the first property past the gazebo, if you stand on the wall and look down, you will see where all the stone and concrete from behind has been washed out and sand. Maintenance has been trying to shore that up, has been filling that in for the last few years, and it just keeps getting washed out. It needs to be changed. What's happening is the lower deck, if you go down to the lower deck at the pool, you will see cracks forming. And most likely that's because what was underneath and holding all that up is being washed out. It has to be repaired or it's just gonna get worse.
Okay, the reason I'm asking is how did you come about, you only have one company right now that's checking this out for us? You have more than one? Okay, all right, because I used to live on a canal and in Hudson, and people were constantly having to refill. And, I mean, I know I could get names of people that don't charge astronomical, you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
Amounts, right, exactly, yes. But if you're getting 3 different ones, I mean, the way I just understood it, you were gonna pay one person $400 and some dollars. That's an engineer, not an actual.
Correct.
Okay, so the engineer would know as much as the people that actually do this job for a living?
Yeah,
Well,
hopefully the
Dale, the
engineer-
problem is that we've got 3 contractors, they each have a different solution. And so we want an engineer to examine the situation, tell us what the solution should be, and then have the contractors bid, so they're all bidding on the same thing.
Okay.
We don't want, to make the wrong decision and then have it wash out again.
Oh, no, that makes a lot of sense, and like I said, don't rush with something that's costing a lot of money, and I'm all for that. Do we by any chance have the name of the engineer?
Yes, well, we have one, his name is Joseph Gigliardo.
Okay, all right, thank you.
And John, you're gonna look into that spring one that,
Yeah, so I guess the action item here is to continue to search for engineers, and maybe hopefully by the next meeting, we have more than one engineer proposal that the board can review.
okay, last one, we talked about ARC guidelines. I'd like to have a committee from the board, 2 or 3, 3 people that would look into this and. Okay, LeMay?
The only thing, if we're doing an ARC guideline, I think we should include some of the residents into that.
I think so, yeah.
Because, yeah, this is a big job.
Undertaking, yeah.
Either from the ARC committee or someone who has been on the ARC committee in the past. I'm sure there's someone interested, other people that would be interested in helping out with it. Like I said, this is a huge, yes.
Do we have a volunteer from the residents? I'm looking at Ed, and he's
Don't
shaking his
run
head no.
Okay, how about if can we wait until the next meeting and put this out there and see if we can get someone else to help
Sure,
us?
we could do that. Either that, or why don't we set up board members who could be on the committee and then ask, still wait for, that way,
Yeah, either way,
yeah.
it's fine.
People want to know what's involved before they volunteer for something.
Going over the art guidelines and seeing if there's anything that needs to be changed or corrected.
I know right now from being on the art committee, paint colors need to be updated, trim and roofs and driveways, you know, we were doing a lot of new things, pavers and looking at everything and it's a big commitment
It is.
to do it.
It's not something that's gonna be done in a week or one meeting, it's gonna take a while. Okay, who on the board would like to be on that committee? Sue?
Yeah.
Okay, and Jennifer? Okay, we'll get,
I will need
okay,
another one,
okay.
but I'd like to see some resident involved.
Ed said he'll help.
Definitely.
I saw that. I saw that hand come up. You were hesitating, but I saw it. Yeah,
I'm sure Russell.
when he's able, yeah, right.
Wait a minute, we all know Russ's taste. Jane, do we want Russ on this committee? Jane says no. I'm joking.
Okay, yeah, I know. We don't want to burden him.
Volunteer him.
Yeah, right. It'll take longer to recuperate if he knows he's got to come back to something.
Yeah.
Patty?
Patricia French Wisely, 13806-7024. I think this is a terrible idea at this time. Just, the finance committee just told you we are $76,000 in arrears on the fines and everything else. This is a very expensive project. You've got to do the seawall and it's got to be done right, whether it costs $60,000 or more, it has to be done. This project entails a great deal of publishing, printing, postage. People have to receive notices in writing before you have it. Then after it's printed, they have to all get a new one. I think you really need to look at the costs of this before you go running off and decide you want to do it. I think the last time we sent a postcard was about $4,000.
Patty, the committee may get together and realize, and decide that it doesn't need to be up, you know.
Well, it sounds like they are, but I think you have to look at the finances and not just the roof colors and the other colors, because this is a very serious financial project to do it. And I know everybody loves to say, well, I don't like that shade of blue and I hate this shade of green. And it happens all the time. But I think we have to be a little more serious about where we're spending our money.
I agree with Patty. Usually, when you form a committee, which I would agree to be on, it is a very, very big project, and usually you include the residents in any time you change a document like that. So it would require informing them that you're talking about changes to the document. And perhaps there's other residents that say, why don't we do this? Why don't we do that? And then they, after the fact, they'll say, I didn't know there was a meeting. So it's really imperative that all residents, new residents, we've had tremendous turnover, and newer people have more advanced ideas than those of us that have been here a while. So, but I think it does need done no matter what. I don't know if we have the money in there to do that, but it does require informing the residents. The last time they only sent postcards, we used to have a meeting, so you never did that when you redid them the last time. But resident input is important, because then they can't say they weren't asked to contribute to the rewriting of an important document, which is the act document. So I agree with Patty on that.
Thank you. So, go ahead.
As far as the money goes, the money for the seawall project comes out of the reserves. The money for mailing and all this will come out of operating expenses. right now, it's the operating expenses that has the surplus. We always do extra money in the postage for the occasion of when we might have to mail. And if we're making black and white copies, the only cost to us is the paper and the toner. And paper is not that expensive. Yes, there's mailing problems, but we can do it. It's something that needs to be done.
Yes.
The ARC guidelines are older. And we know what we have to do with them, but they need to be revised. Now, when we go through it, if we find that it's only a small change that we want to make, there are ways that we can do a small change without as much hassle, because you'd be using a whole lot less paper if you don't have to reprint the whole thing.
I'd say you have to do it right or not do it at all, because I think you did that the last time.
That's what we're going to go over.
Yeah. I think total resident input into the new people moving in may have questions and ideas pertaining to the ARC document. So I think if we have the money to do it, we need to do it right. So, when LeMay came on, she was very active on the ARC committee, and she made a lot of changes. Not a lot, just a few, which didn't include everybody except the little postcard that went out, that many new residents don't even know what that's about. So I would hope that a lot would be put into when you redo this document and do it right, and include all the new residents. Thanks.
Thank you. So we're going to get a committee together to start looking into it. Right? Okay. All right. End of story for now. Go ahead, Ron.
Yeah, Ron Wysick, 7024. I've been on the art committee almost since I got here, and I got here in 2005. So almost every year, every new board wants to do things. They want to change things. Everybody has their own opinion. It is so hard when you start talking about the guidelines, because we who do the guidelines to the new residents, it's difficult because you don't know whether somebody's going to be changing something in the next month or so. But the guidelines that we have are basically been done and done and done and done. So I think pretty soon somebody has to, if the law changes, maybe we should change the guidelines. Otherwise, just leave them the way they are.
Thank you for your input, Ron. Moving right along. Fines and suspensions. Go ahead, Sue.
I move that we send the owner at 8040 San Fernando Drive to finding and fine them $50 a day up to $5,000 for lawn and landscaping violations.
Okay, thank you, Brenda. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carried.
I move that we send the owner at 8035 Merrimack Drive to fine them $50 a day up to $5,000, and because of their failure to do lawn and landscaping.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
I move that we send the owner at 11142 Salt Tree Drive to fining and fined for $50 a day up to $5,000 for maintenance of the exterior of the home.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
I move that we send the owner of 11139 Pepper Tree Lane to fining and fine them $50 a day up to $5,000. And this is for parking of a vehicle on where it shouldn't be parked.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
I move that we send the owner of 8824 Wabash Lane to fining $50 a day up to $5,000. And the reason is for the outside storage of rubbish.
All in favor?
I
Opposed? Motion carried.
move that we send the owner of 8819 Woodmont Lane to fining, and the amount would be $50 a day up to $5,000. And it's for storage of an inoperative vehicle.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. That's the end of that. And Elizabeth, I have these for you. Okay. Yeah. We have to adopt the policies for the Tucson election, which, believe it or not, is coming up. We have to get, things have to be out no later than February 2nd. Has everyone on the board looked over these? Okay. I need a motion to accept them. Jennifer?
Madam President, I make a motion that we accept the guidelines for the election of spring 2022.
Okay. All in favor?
Question,
Yes,
has anything changed from prior?
just the dates have changed. I'm sorry, did you want to talk about it?
Neil, yes. Sorry, but yes. There's nothing on here about having to have post a picture on here of the candidate, and I think that really needs to be done. There's too many in here.
With the same day.
Yes, and then they're not sure who they're actually voting for. And I think that's just courtesy, common courtesy, that a current picture be added to the application to run.
I know you talked about it in the past, redoing the election guidelines, which they do need updated. Because I know years ago, Ron and my husband and other people were on the committee. So it's a very important document that I think needs some other additions to. So have you, did you have a meeting and decided, or was John involved with doing the election guidelines? Because they have to be rewritten for a couple of years, really. So I'm just wondering how you came to the votes on the.
John, you want to answer that for her?
They haven't been redone. It's the same document that we used last year and the year before. It was just different dates.
So you're following the same, nothing new or nothing else added or any changes, right?
It only what LeMay just suggested to mandate a picture with the candidate's name.
Okay, so, Debbie, I know you're the one on this. The first thing is at least 50 days prior to election day, which would be February 2nd. And then it says 20 days from the date of the first mailing. So 20 days from February 2nd should be February 22nd, shouldn't it?
Yes, what?
Yeah.
For instance, I would like to see perhaps put in the election guidelines that anyone running for the Tucson board should definitely be a senior citizen and a member and own property in the senior community. So Driftwood has their own member already. That's all written up. So that's all taken care of. But I think it should be part of the guidelines so we don't run into any trouble with any more of the family communities getting on the board. So that to me was a concern. I was on that committee, which kind of just fluffed it off and played some games with it. So I would really like to see a copy. Maybe perhaps you could discuss the election guidelines a little more thoroughly.
These guidelines were
Go ahead.
these guidelines were done by the election committee with Jim Trost, and it's been just followed from that point.
I didn't hear you.
This was done by Jim Trost, this policy,
My
and this
my
is,
husband was on the community with
right,
him on
that was,
board.
this is the one they've used, no
It was
change.
a very important group of men that worked on that as well.
Right.
That's-
So it is the same.
And Jim Trost, yeah, he was always involved with that. So he was involved when I changed the orientation. He was very helpful. But I think you shouldn't just agree to it without looking at it and see if you have some better ideas or something different. And we need to clarify who can be allowed to be a toxic member of the A committee. Thanks.
Yes, Debbie.
Policies always kind of followed your documents. It states in here what we have to follow, John and I have to follow, the 50 days, the
Right.
25, the envelopes. Everything's
Okay.
just taken from the documents and put,
It's procedures that indicate
Procedure.
our documents.
right,
Am I right on the date?
yes.
Okay, and then which changes the no later than March 7th becomes February 27th.
No, because it's 25 days prior to election day. You have to
Oh,
count back
okay.
from
Right,
election
I'm
day.
back.
So the only one that changes is the 20
Mhm.
days.
That's the only one.
And what is that, Sue?
22nd.
22nd. No,
February.
February.
And actually, LeMay,
What?
the candidates' sheets are voluntary. If I remember correctly, I'm trying to find it. I'm not against, you do not have to submit one.
You don't have to submit a sheet saying you're running or
No.
what's on it?
No,
Not your information sheet, you just have to apply for
all right.
the.
Section 12, election of directors. The following shall be the method by which directors are elected. A, at least 50 days prior to the election, the first notice of election shall be sent to the members. The notice shall state that members desiring to be a candidate have 20 days from the date of mailing of the notice to the members to return to the association office by 4 p.m. A notice of intent and one optional candidate information sheet. It's optional, not to exceed 8.5 by 11 inches, printed on one side to be distributed with the second notice. So that is from your document.
Okay, thank you.
Are we allowed to add the picture? Don?
You can request the picture, you can't mandate the picture. You can request a candidate statement, but you can't mandate it.
Well,
Really, all they need to do is sign the form and send it back.
actually, when you get as a candidate, it says, and you can include a picture no bigger than blah, blah, blah. Yeah, and on the intent form.
So what would it take to make that mandatory if you do an election?
We'd have to change the actual documents.
I don't think Florida statute would allow that change either.
Okay.
I have a question about the 20 days.
Uh-huh.
The first one says at least 50. Is the second one supposed to be at least 20 and then no later than? Because there's a, first one allows a gap and I'm wondering if the second one allows a gap.
Your first letter is at least 50 days.
Right. But I'm wondering why,
Is the way
Is it-
it's worded, I know.
the way it's worded is there's usually, a fudge factor in there kind of thing. And so to move that up to February 22nd, I'm wondering if the reason it's 20 days and then
Because that's in your
March 2nd is for a fudge factor kind of thing.
I have to go, we have to go by the documents, 20 days.
In the documents, it says 20 days from the date of the first mailing. In our bylaws or I think it's the bylaws. In our bylaws, it puts these dates in. We just have to calculate, it mandates it's 20 days from the first mailing. And this one is not less than 25 days prior to election.
I think the majority of the information in this procedure is taken word for word from your document.
Dale, you have a question?
Dale Thompson and Cheetah Drive. Well, one thing is obvious to me right now, we should have started this longer because now we're going to have the time frame problem. What? If you wanted to make changes, we would have to do it by a certain date that's pretty close to now, correct?
No, we can't make changes without changing the bylaws.
Right.
Which means we have to go to an attorney through the whole process.
Which means we should have thought about this a long time ago and had it taken care of before now. Susan, putting your head down is not gonna help.
It's not a problem, Dale.
It's not a problem to you. It is for the people that are unhappy with the way it's being done. I'm speaking right now, not only for myself, I'm speaking for about 4 people that agree with Ellie that are not here today. There are changes we would like made. One of them, yes, a picture. The last time we had a voting situation, we had people voting for a Chris that wasn't the Chris they thought they were voting for. I have no problem with Brenda whatsoever. I have no reason to dislike her. But right after she got on the board, she found out she wasn't going to be able to be here all the time. And a lot of people said, oh my God, we voted for somebody that's brand new that we don't know. And now she's not even showing up for the meetings. I speak the truth when I get up here. And if nobody likes it, that's too darn bad. There are changes that could benefit everybody. And I would like to know right now, are we only talking right now about the upcoming people that want to run for the board? Or are we talking about the whole voting procedure and everything else?
This document is the whole voting procedure. It goes through the responsibilities of the election committee, the responsibility of the manager in the office, and the restrictions for campaigning and the voting procedure.
Well, then if people wanted to see change, this is the first that it's being brought up to the residents.
Election every year.
Excuse me?
We have an election every year.
Yes, we do, but when do we come to you and say we're unhappy with the way it's done or we'd like to make some changes? Oh,
And I suggest that you run for the board and then next year you can make your changes.
you know what? If I could pick all the people that were gonna be up there with me, I would run for the board. I won't even join some committees because I know damn well the older people that have been on it for a long time, you just fight with them. I sat in on the committee to make some changes. And what good did it do? I still don't know the answer because of Susan and everybody else arguing over the wording about whether people that are on the board that do not live in the senior village have a right to vote. One paperwork says yes, they can. The other one says no, they can't. I've never got an answer. Susan says one answer, the paperwork says the other. And the people that were there with me, other than Ellie, I wish were here today because I know they would get up and back me up on that one.
Okay, go ahead.
I know last year there was a big problem with the election committee, who counted the votes and who was in charge. I don't know how that was chosen, but I think we need to put that out to anyone who is interested. I don't think it should be the same people every year unless, I know they said, well, there was a problem, no one wanted to do it. But I think we really have to look at that so that it's open to anyone who might be interested in running. Is that in this?
Yes, it's right on the top. Ms. Lemay, as per your documents, you must select the election committee.
Okay.
Prior to the annual meeting.
Okay, and when is the annual meeting?
April.
But we need it.
Oh, but this is before that. Okay.
Yes, the next meeting. And so be thinking about who you would like on the.
I think we need to put the word out,
Yeah,
even
well,
if
that's
we
what
do it
this is
at
for.
this meeting, and anyone who would be interested in chairing it or being on the election committee, we could put a sign-up sheet out on the bulletin board or at the office.
There was a sign up for all the committees and we approved the committees earlier.
Was there a sign-up for the voting committee? No.
Election.
The election committee?
No. Well, that was after we
Probably
got
the
on.
former election
Well, that was right
chairperson should be involved in the.
I'm sorry, Ellie, I didn't hear you.
Perhaps your former election chairpersons, Karen and Mitt Shirley, who ran it for quite 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, should be part of that committee. That's the way it was in the past. The election chairperson that had served the year before would be on the committee to suggest any changes. If anyone that feels something is not being done right on the document now, they would be more aware of it than anybody else.
I have nothing against Karen. I'm glad she stepped up and did that, but to automatically put her into the next committee, I don't think that's right. I think it should be open to anyone
Oh,
interested.
we don't care everybody. Yeah, neither
Right.
one of them are here. They don't come to the meeting.
Right.
Karen and Shirley.
Go ahead, Sue.
May I make a suggestion, that on the Timber Oaks website, we put, looking for volunteers for the election committee, so we're getting it out as much as we can, besides just on bulletin boards.
I think we do that as well as posting it, in the office area on the bulletin boards.
Yes, I agree.
Right, yeah.
No.
No.
Election committee.
Yeah.
Election committee.
Okay, so,
So at the next meeting, No.
next Wednesday, the Wednesday meeting. Okay, Debbie, would you put a little note out that, yeah.
Bev,
Yes,
I'll make a motion that we accept did we make it? Oh,
We
now we have to revise it.
yeah, we haven't voted on it.
With corrections.
as
Accept
corrected.
it as correct. Because the date was incorrect. Yeah. Okay. So I would like to change my motion to adapt to the change. Thank you.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Okay. Does the board have anything, board members have, oops. Yes, John?
I was just looking at the dates on my calendar. Maybe on that second page, then we could change March 31st to April 1st.
No, because it's a weekend, I think, John.
First is a Friday.
Okay, yep, got it.
So that's a second page change.
Yep, got it.
So it's April 1st.
For those that couldn't hear, the date of March 31st, for one business day prior to the election day, the manager produces a list of the eligible voters for the election committee. That date will be changed to April 1st, which is a Friday.
Okay, so motion was passed. Does anyone have, on the board want to say anything more for anything? Go ahead, LeMay.
I would just like to say that I think the I think everything around the outside looks so nice and has been well taken care of. I know it took a long time, but I wanted to thank John and all of our workers for everything that they've done. It looked very nice for Christmas. I love that they put the poinsettias out in the front. I think there's been a great change for the better. I see a lot of work being done by everyone. The lights on the courts outside that have been lit up, which has hopefully stopped some of the vandalism that has been going on. And the fact that we have higher toilets in the ladies' room is really nice. So
Does anybody else want to contribute? I know, really?
We're all happy.
All right, John, go ahead.
Maybe it's just important to stress, because Monday's meeting is unusual, maybe just recap that there's a meeting on Monday, and if you have questions, to get them to the office in writing as soon as possible. Give the board a chance to review what's being submitted.
Right. And Wendy, the other thing is, if you submit questions, not all questions might be done to be asked of the attorneys. So don't feel anyone's picking on anyone if they're not asked.
And that it's not a normal board meeting, that's the only item on the agenda, and all homeowner conversation will be saved to the end of the meeting.
Correct.
Can I also say that there's been all kinds of stuff on Facebook about the fact that we're just looking for lawyers who will okay us to do the spectrum deal. That is not the reason for looking for new lawyers. We are looking for lawyers who can do everything for us instead of having things parceled out to 2 or 3 different law firms or lawyers. So we're actually hoping to cut costs and get a better understanding with one law outfit instead of 3.
Okay.
I'd like to say something.
All right, go ahead.
Recently, we got a directive from RPM concerning masks, stating that they had over 100 employees and that they were mandating masks in the office area. This is our building, and I think we need to determine whether a mask is required or not. They have over 100 employees. But I don't consider our employees, they work for us. And so I understand that they can make a suggestion, but I don't think they need to make a directive to us on what we can do in our building. I know it was just in the office, and it was misinterpreted, and signs went out on all the doors, and that was corrected. But even just in the office, I don't think that, they're grouping all their employees, they've got locations all over the place. To say they have over 100 employees to fall under this OSHA guideline, which is illegal, in my opinion. But
You're entitled to your opinion.
But
I wonder how many employees they have overall. We aren't the only business that they're managing.
exactly, that's how they come up with 100 employees.
That's about the vaccine mandate.
But
It's going to the court.
But if they think that they can mandate to us or direct us on what we do in our building, they're out of line. And maybe we should be looking at a new management firm, because they work for us.
At this point in our lives, unfortunately, excuse me, masks are gonna be a thing of the future, I believe, and that's just my opinion, not anybody else's opinion. Okay, I'm entitled to my opinion as well. So, and I think what RPM and any other management company, they're thinking of the people as a whole. John just put up what they told him to do. He has to do his job. It doesn't mean that we are going to go into masks. It's voluntary. I see a few people out here that have their masks on. I have one with me, chose not to wear it up here because you can't hear us speaking as well with the mask on. And that was my choice. I think as far as John has said, it's just there in case, the sign is there in case people come from RPM so that they know that he did post what they asked him to. So,
I don't think Ed has a problem with what John did. I think Ed's problem is more with what RPM mandated to us. So,
okay. I don't think did they mandate that we had to have to do the mask? I don't think they did.
So RPM has a policy, and that is a requirement of the policy. Just one thing to add to that. I don't know about today going forward, but from today going backward, any employee, any RPM employee, and this happened at Cox as well, that took time off, had to get tested, anything that involved sick time that was connected to COVID, RPM covered that cost, not Timber Oaks. So if that's to continue, if I'm RPM, and if I put a policy, if I know that I'm covering charges and I want you to take steps to reduce my cost, and if the Timber Oaks board stepped on that, then I may no longer cover those costs.
Okay. We all set? Okay, can I have a motion to adjourn? Oh, I'm sorry, yes, you want to speak?
Yes, I would.
Come up and speak.
Hi, my name is Gail Newman. I live on Merrimack Drive. I moved here almost 6 years ago. One of the reasons I picked this area to live in is because it was deed restricted in 55. Okay, we have homeowner rules and regulations. Upon living here, I have noticed on my neighbor, 3034, which is Monica Miller, she has a business that she runs out of there of dog grooming. Unfortunately, I have a ton of pictures. I have videos. I did not know how to send those to y'all. And another thing, I look around here today. I actually have some pictures of people sitting in this room with dogs going in to be groomed and left and dropped and picked up. She puts them in a cage, they bark. I've got videos and stuff where the dogs are barking. She's been told over and over, I believe, that she could no longer do dogs in her home. I believe that is more like a retail business or something that should be in a building where inspection is taken, license are permitted. I do not like living next door, people pulling up every 30, 40 minutes, dropping off dogs, picking up dogs. There's been issues with that house with other things this last couple of weeks. We also have an issue across the street from 3034, 3035. I believe y'all mentioned them a couple of times today. We have 2 young girls that have moved in there. They both come off of the 9th Street of 19th. Down here on 19th, those girls were involved with 7-Eleven and meeting another guy that lived in this house at that time. We have 2 girls living there. One of them will not hardly let you see her. She covers up her face and runs inside. The second one has a 2 or 3-year-old child that is there. So,
Okay, yeah, can you just hold off a second? We're gonna adjourn the meeting and then it's open forum.
oh,
And you
okay,
can continue, okay?
sure.
Okay. Okay, all in favor of adjourning the meeting? We have a motion on the floor. Aye. Opposed? Motion. Meeting is adjourned and now it's open forum.
Okay, can I continue?
Yes,
sorry.
Are you sure of the house numbers?
Yes, I am.
Okay.